Hi, this is me, back with another video. I managed to figure out how to light my face. Uh, my IQ is too low to have figured out before how to do it. The way you do it is by turning on your screen on your other phone really bright, and that will illuminate your face. But somehow, I was too stupid to figure that out last time. Well, you know, math was never my... I get confused by mathematical concepts of one side and the other side and that kind of stuff. But today I'm gonna talk about something fairly personal. Maybe some of you can relate to it, which is that the fact of being different, and I mean really different, not like 15-year-old teenager different, but deeply autistic or schizotypical or something like that, which I probably have. And most of these labels are just made up anyway. They don't really mean much. But I probably am, schizotypical or something like that. And so one consequence of all this, plus my shitty life experiences, I got bullied in school, and all of that resulted in a really strange puppy, really strange person in myself, in me. And it has consequences, and one of those consequences is that my sleeping schedule is fucked, because I can't really work a normal job. I managed to find ways of making my own money, but I don't have the security of a job, and I constantly have to pay for that, constantly be humiliated. People ask, what do you work? You go to the doctor, what do you work? What's your job? And you have to tell them, well, I don't really have one. And you always feel a little bit guilty, a little bit unincluded. And so one of the consequences of all this is that I have really fucked up sleep schedule. So I sometimes go to bed at 1 in the afternoon and wake up at 9. That's what happened today. My sleeping schedule kind of cycles around. So sometimes I sleep normally, but then the 24 hours I come full circle and I'm back to some fucked up schedule. Go to bed at 4, wake up at noon. Go to bed at 8, wake up at 4 p.m. Go to bed at 1, wake up at 10 p.m. And just today I was kind of, accosted by my mother, who's otherwise pretty supportive of my disease and disability, but she does kind of nag me, and you might say understandably, but that's exactly the point that I'm trying to make, is that really necessary? Do I really have to be constantly reminded of my failure, or does it really have to be even thought of as a failure? Am I not allowed to simply be the person that I am without constantly being chided and have people's fingers wagging at me, the finger wagging, the brow beating, the advice, the gentle infantilization of me, condescension. Do I really deserve this? Or is this something that people just sort of made up to fuck with the people who are different, who can only exist in their own little world and cannot really join society in a normal way? Do we really have to keep screwing with these people? Do we really have to tell them that something's wrong with them? because, you know, this idea that everybody needs to be rehabilitated is the same as everybody needs to have a job, you know. And, you know, we're still at the infantile stage of society where we can't even seem to recognize that some people just ain't good at jobs, that some of us are antisocial and kind of have a fundamental intrinsic desire to be alone, and that just cannot be tolerated. And one thing that I've noticed or realized with regard to that is that this is actually quite dangerous for us who are different, because, like, if you send me to a normal job, I'm gonna be real anxious. I'm gonna be real fucking anxious all day. And so you are essentially, and you know, anxiety pumps your blood pressure. And I've had blood pressure issues. I've had high blood pressure, I've had low blood pressure because of the medicine I was taking for it. You know, and that can lead to a stroke, can lead to, I guess, something like a heart attack or an aneurysm, I don't know, all kinds of shit, but definitely a stroke. And so I realized, if society pesters me into having a job, it's going to result in my blood pressure being really high, essentially all day. And that significantly would increase my risk of you know, stroke or something like that. And so the only alternative, I guess, would be to be on pills forever, but that would be untenable. Yeah, that would be probably dangerous and stupid too. You know, to keep my blood pressure down, that would be insane. Plus, you can't really get rid of the stress. There's no way of getting rid of that. And so, you know, there's always a sense in which your difference will fuck with you at the job, and there's really nothing you can do about it, you know. And so I realized that people who are different are constantly sent to their own deaths essentially. Not only are they made to suffer, but they're also made to possibly even die or get a stroke or something like that, because they just can't take the stress of the environment. It's just too much for them to handle. And so there should be some kind of fucking legislation to make that impossible. And I'm in the unlucky position that I don't have that institutional backing. I am literally called severely disabled, which is kind of embarrassing, but that's what they call it, because of my autism. And yet, for some reason, that doesn't qualify me for, you know, full benefits, like just give me enough money to live. It doesn't qualify me for that. And it's like, well, if being severely disabled doesn't qualify you, then what the fuck does? So, you know, we have this insane culture in this hyper-capitalist society where somehow just every single individual has to work, unless they don't have a head. You know, if they don't have a head, then maybe they're allowed not to work. But if they have a head, they have to work. And, you know, it's a very tiny percent of disabled people who get full benefits. And so that means there's a bunch of people who really have no business working a normal job because they're not cut out for it, who are made to do it. And again, you can say, blah, blah, it's victim mentality, it's this and that. Okay, go ahead and say that shit. But I don't know why you would be so reactionary and kind of simple-minded about it. Why not recognize that some people are just different and have different needs. What is the terrible flaw in recognizing that? I mean, in rich countries, we do have enough money to take care of everyone, no doubt about it. So why don't we do it? Well, the only reason that could possibly qualify as an explanation is hate and discrimination toward, this population. It just cannot be tolerated that some people be, taken care of. It's just too much for this society to accept. And I just find it so bizarre. Actually, hope you don't mind if I'm in the dark, but I feel like if I bless my face with the light, it's not good for me. So I'm just not gonna do that. But I'm still here. So, I don't understand what gives. I don't understand why we're doing this, other than some kind of bizarre reactionary ideology whereby disabled people essentially have very little rights. And yeah, they do have a basic amount of rights. There's some legislation to help them. For example, there are tax breaks, cheap travel, public travel, public transportation, and we do get a small amount of money. I get a small amount of money, but this is a far cry from the rights that disabled people really deserve. And I really have no problem with the label disabled, because some people really are. But if we made a society that better equipped these people, then there would be no point calling it a disability. You can just call it difference. So disability is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy where disabled are largely kept disabled because of the challenges that society imposes upon them, Like, and this mostly has to do with mental disabilities and psychic disabilities. Like if you're in a wheelchair, it's very difficult not to call you disabled. But what about the mental ones? What about the autism and the schizotypical disorders and the bipolar disorders? And these things can easily be managed and mended by societal help, and yet it isn't. At least in most places in the world, definitely is not. Where I live, it isn't. It's very difficult. But it's not enough to just give them money. I'm not saying just give them money, right? Why not give them opportunities? Why not look at what their talents are and try to involve them in something? Why does it have to be that you have to choose between working in a shoe store and not doing anything at all? Why can't you just say, hey, this guy is good at making YouTube videos. This guy is a good artist or a writer. Why not make use of their talents? Why not require their talents? So here again, this fake individualism of modern, hyper-capitalist society comes out, where, we just have to pretend that we don't really live in a society. We're just a bunch of isolated individuals. It would be called an intrusion on people's privacy to look into what they can and cannot do based on their personal histories. Oh no, we can't do that. That would be breach of privacy. But only if you look at that, assumes a very particular view of society where you have the state bureaucracy, which is your enemy, and you're the victim, and you just kind of hate each other. It doesn't have to be that way. It could be collaborative. Could be I'm willing to give you my data so that you can give me my better opportunities, assess what I can and cannot do. An AI model could be involved or something. And yet, that's just not fucking, no, we can't do that. Either we give you disability money and let you rot, or we give you nothing and we force you to work some low-end job, which is not really good for anyone. This is an argument I made before, which is that it's not necessarily beneficial even for society to have this mindset, this simplistic reactionary mindset. Because by forcing people into these low-end jobs, you're actually lowering the GDP. You're not maximizing the potential productivity of that person. So if only you were more forgiving, more progressive, more, I don't know, accepting of people's differences, then you could produce a society that's actually good for you as the society. So we're actually telling people who could be really talented and who are really talented, sorry, we're not gonna make use of your talent because because you're different. So you can't make use of your talent through normal means, or your talent is hard to market anyway. And so we're gonna give you an option. Either you stay at home with your parents and be a leech, or maybe we give disability money if you qualify, or you can work some shitty low-end job that's pointless and serves no fucking purpose. Really. Why not introduce a fourth option, which is we're gonna look at your talent, see if you can do something, and we're gonna give you a plan, and it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. You can just have a social worker figure this out with help of an AI system or something. Give you a little personalized plan of what you can and cannot do. Maybe you have to do it alone in your own house. Maybe you can't get to work, it's too much for you to be in a social institution. Okay, no problem. We're gonna work around it. And we're gonna make use of your talents. And we're gonna pay you for it. Why would we not do that instead of just this 3 options of doom, I mean, really, what's the harm? I don't really get that, Actually, if I play a video, nah, fuck that. So, yeah, it's, so I guess what I'm saying is, I hate ableism. I hate, it's just so stupid. Waste. I mean, there's so much waste in this society, so much just, I work at the shoe store and I work at McDonald's, and why are we bothering with this shit? Just develop robots that do everything and forget the rest. We can do the creative work. We don't really need a bunch of people working in a fucking grocery store, do we? We can just, have a bunch of, we can just have a bunch of items in the store and people can just go in and buy them. Do we really need people running up and down every day? Do we really need all these low-end workers? Can we not just replace them with robots? If only we invested more technology into that. But the bigger point, more money into that technology. And we would have more money if we followed my plan. My plan would actually increase the amount of GDP, would increase the amount of productivity. The whole model of society could be improved in a way that would actually be good for it. And so it would be a kind of self-perpetuating cycle of, we make more money because of my plan, because of this plan of, creativity and inclusion. And we now have more money to replace low-end workers with robots, and we can make use of their talents in a better way. But no. You can't have that in a purely capitalist system that isn't purely capitalist, but it's the state that's pretty much shackled to capital, and so they work together against any kind of social plan. We can't have a social plan because the market logic says so. But the market logic isn't pure market logic either. You know, the big capitalists get what they want from the state. They get the money, they get the bailouts, they get the tax credits, you know, they get the infinite loop of, take out debt, take out debt, and then the collateral is the stuff you already have. So you can take out cheap debt, and your credit score is really high. So, you know, you perpetuate it forever, and you don't have to sell anything. You barely have to sell. I mean, obviously, poor people, workers, poor people spend almost all their money. They can't invest. So, you know, it's just a bunch of self-perpetuating cycles of doom. That's completely unfair. It's you know, the system is completely rigged. It's not a smooth surface. Everybody's, you know, it's some people have legs and some people have no legs and they still have to run, and you know, it's just, the whole thing is just so fucking stupid. And you know, I've been asked why am I not a big fan of socialism, I guess was the question. And it's like, I don't care about this. I'm not thinking in words. I'm not thinking in these labels. I'm trying to find rational, reasonable solution. And I don't think that necessarily has to be socialism right away. It can be what I just said. And then we can talk about socialism, but we're not even close to talking about that sort of stuff. So I guess my problem with that is that, well, it's really easy to talk in the abstract. Leftists love to talk in the abstract. You know, they have debates about, is capitalism better or socialism better? And then they say, well, of course, socialism is much better. And yeah, it's very easy to say, but you have to look at the practical facts of the world around us. And right now, let's not dream about fucking workers' councils. Let's try to solve some of these issues that are easily solvable, can be easily solvable without any kind of major revolution or complete, evisceration of the state or capital. We don't need to do that right now. It's really not the biggest issue here. It's too abstract. It's not a real solution. You can't just say, oh, okay, state, forget it. Capital, forget it. You know, I mean, come on. I don't really care about solutions that you can put on a map. It's too loose. It's not the thing that you're looking for. You're looking for specific solutions, and then we can get to it. But you say nothing by saying socialism good. We need to get there in the system, in the process. So, you know, I do have this tendency of not being clear about what I want, I admit it. And it's because I have a flexible mind, as I've been told. But, you know, it's just, I'm kind of a fucked up person, you know, like I'm much more interested in debating particular ideas. I just so don't care about defending certain ideas and, like, you know, running around with a flag with an ism on it. I'm just so uninterested. I only did it for, I guess, views, because it's kind of a useful standpoint, a useful flag to ground yourself. So I will say antinatalism. But I'm also an atheist, and I'm also a leftist, and I'm also progressive, and I'm also this, and I'm also that. But I don't really care too much to defend them because it's not interesting to me. People's bickering is not of any interest to me. I like discussing interesting ideas, very specific, interesting things. much more so than I'm interested in, mine is better than yours, my dick is bigger than yours. So it just depresses me. Debates, I have debated people, but it's like, what's the point? The guy disagrees with me and I think, oh, this guy's an idiot. What's the point of trying to, all you can do is either call him an idiot or you can try and be nice to him, and that just gives him the upper hand, because now you look submissive, and so you don't really have a decision. Either you look dominant or submissive, and both is completely uninteresting to me and kind of inhuman. I think intelligent people don't really care about debates because the whole setup is pointless. Like they go head to head and they say, I'm gonna win the debate if I can prove that you're wrong and you're contradicting yourself. And so what? What have you accomplished? Is that really an accomplishment of something? Is there really a point to this kind of shit? It's just, you can learn more from a poem or a novel or an impassionate speech than you can from a fucking debate. It's just ego wrangling. It's just dick measuring. It's for idiots. That's why Charlie Kirk did it, because he was stupid. And because he liked humiliating teenagers with his bullshit. But, he was exposed as an idiot several times. When he was not debating 18-year-olds, unprepared and polite, he was destroyed because he's stupid, because the whole thing was pointless. It never meant anything. So, I know I'm rambling again, that's what I do. But, these people who, Republicans, Christians, it's so obvious they don't even believe their fucking stories. So what's the point of debating them? They don't even fucking believe it. Like, Charlie Kirk died. I don't care particularly. I mean, yeah, you feel bad for him, but he was a disgusting liar and a bigot. And I think it's even respectful of his legacy to not treat him as a baby. I actually have a good amount of respect for people who die for what they believe in. So I wouldn't call this a sad thing. I would say, that's almost redeemed him a little. Based. I like Kamikaze, not because of the murder they did, but like just the passion. So, maybe this is just the sickness of my mind. But I can't help but have a certain amount of respect for people who die, of their own accord, die for what they believe in. Even suicide is just, I don't know, maybe I'm just sick, but just seems like such a respectable, like, I've had enough, okay. And the rest of us are just, chugging along. We're not really doing anything, just pretending to live, pretending to have lives, walking on 2 feet. But for what purpose are we walking on 2 feet? So we can eat Big Macs and, jerk off or fuck some other person. Ew, it's all disgusting and putrid and stupid. We're gonna die anyway. So the whole thing is just so fucking stupid. But anyway, so that's just life being stupid. And even if life is enjoyable, like I can have some fun, it's still just, it's you can tell that you're just a fucking animal, that you're just kind of selfish, and it's really hard to overcome your darker nature. And when you think about it, the world is made out of other people's pain and the animals' pain, and you're like, oh fuck. The past, you can't fix the past. That's one thing that really bothers me about it. That even if the future could be fixed, my objection is that, But the past cannot be fixed. What the fuck? Yeah, the past cannot be fixed. And that makes the future intolerable. Because the future is contingent on this past. And so I think we ought to have some respect and recognition of the fact that even at the best of times, we're feeding on the corpses of others, the suffering of others, and there's nothing just... You can only accept that if you're ignorant of it. The only thing you can do is shove your head in the sand and not think about it, because if you do, you know it's intolerable. Nobody thinks it's tolerable. Nobody. So we have to live in a delusion to survive. But yeah, I was gonna say about Charlie Kirk that they don't really believe their delusions, because if they did, they would be happy that he's dead. Because he's reunited with Jesus. So why are they so sad when he dies? It doesn't fucking make any sense. So, it's so obvious that they don't even believe the stories. They don't even believe, they don't bear false witness. Well, they're bearing false witness all over the place. They're okay with killing too. At the very least, the whole life is made out of killing other creatures and other people. And why would a God allow that to happen? Why would an all-loving God say, oh yeah, let's murder and kill and rape and torment and lie and cheat and oppress? And that's what the whole system and the planet is made out of. So why would God be okay with that? Maybe he isn't. Maybe he says, fuck you, it's not good enough. But then why did he make it, right? So, the whole thing is decimated in 2 seconds. And that's a big deal, really. Because if there's no God, then what is your next excuse? Right? If not even God is coming to the rescue, then who the fuck is coming to the rescue? Who? Once you get rid of that delusion, which is almost certainly, I can't prove it 100%, because the world is really wacky and bizarre, and we might have limited knowledge of what's possible and what's impossible. But the idea that some omnibenevolent God is, that cannot be the answer. And, once you get rid of that delusion, all bets are off. Because now you don't have a big daddy who will come and save the day. Like just a couple months ago, the second coming of Christ, I think, was announced and it didn't happen, right? So come on, it's so obvious these people are dupes. When Trump, there was an assassination attempt on Trump, and the shooter missed, some other person was killed, and Trump said, I think it was God who saved me. And it's like, come on. Why would God kill some sucker who is essentially innocent instead of a megalomaniac lying sack of shit? Why? Why would God allow that to happen? So it's... Or, you look at, really stupid people, and they have a really strong tendency to be religious. And so, if that's not evidence that it's bullshit, then what is? It's just, come on. So, you have to be able to put the picture together somehow. And, yeah. So, what's left at that point? No God to come to the rescue. People really just die. That's really hard to accept. It. One moment you're alive, next moment you're dead, and that's it. There doesn't seem to be anything else. And how can you square everything I just said and still be religious, optimistic, pro-life, all that shit? I just don't get it, man. I really don't get it. Because again, the point is not to be depressing on purpose. It's just, what else are you gonna think if you're honest? There's nothing else to think if you're honest but some dark shit. Because the truth is really dark. Whatever the truth is, it's it's a really loose idea, but yeah, I don't want to get pulled into philosophy now, but I do have a sense that we can't actually grasp anything like a complete truth. We're always trapped in our subjectivity and our contingency. Like, I can look at something in a very objective way. I can take it apart, look at the mechanics of it, put numbers on it, the parameters, or I can think about it as the way that it relates to my personality, the way it makes me feel, what it does to me. But I can't really put the two together and get a coherent picture of reality. It's just there are only two ways of looking at it. You can't look at it in both ways at the same time. So how can we gather through truth if we're trapped in our own subjectivity constantly? Well, I guess to an extent we can, but it's gonna be a very denuded truth, a truth that isn't not gonna answer all of our questions. It's gonna be contingent on what we want, and so in that sense, not objective. We don't see into the future, so we can only make very denuded judgments about reality, very denuded observations and prognostications about reality. And that's a major problem, actually, because you can call someone sick objectively. Right? You can go to a doctor and be called sick objectively, but the doctor won't fix the society that produced your sickness in the first place. So the doctor is right that you're sick, but there's an implicit judgment that somehow it's your own personal responsibility, even though it was obviously generated by society, right? So there's a kind of paradox with objectivity, that even something that's objectively true, it still leaves an incomplete picture of reality. And the best we can do is make a system that works better, and that system will never be complete and will never have a perfect understanding of the reality around us. It will always be contingent and incomplete to an extent, and that's just something we have to swallow, that the final truth is just not available. We're never going to figure out what the nature of reality is, other than, well, it's some stuff banging into each other and making new stuff, and but that's all. We can't really understand who made it, why did he make it, was it a he or a she, was it a third thing, this age, what is time, what is space, I don't fucking know. It's just it's all very contingent, right? It's all very incomplete. But in the meantime, can we at least do something decent for people, right? And God, we haven't really been able to do that. Forget the rest. We haven't even been able to provide 21 centuries. And actually, human civilization has existed for probably 8,000-10,000 years. So that's a lot more centuries. Yeah. That's at least 5 times more, I don't know. So, and still, no matter what optimists say, we still have a situation where most people are living in what is essentially shitty circumstances, poor houses, just depressing jobs, long hours, relatively low life expectancy, relative misery, and even in the rich countries, we still leave many people behind. So many. And then there's a lucky few. The lucky few who are happy, who are not even necessarily rich, they're just happy. But it's mostly the rich people. They're happy, they're comfortable, they're excited, they have things to look forward to. But what is that? That can only be a small minority of people, because they're the ones who sell you your happiness. They're the ones who sell you an insurance and, credit and a couch that will fix your problems. They're the ones who make policy that fucks you up. The ones who operate the banks and the casinos and the real estate, who manage stock portfolios. They necessarily have to be a minority, because they're the ones who sell you everything you need that you think you need. And so how are we gonna make a society full of happy, content people? Who are they gonna sell happiness to? Who are they gonna sell religion to? Who are they gonna sell video games to? Who are they gonna sell porn to? Who are they gonna sell Big Macs to? Who are they gonna sell, I don't know, cheese puffs to? Haagen-Dazs. Who are they gonna sell this shit to? If everybody's already content with what they have and don't need these copes. Society will collapse if it's too comfortable. In fact, that's why people don't have kids anymore. Not because they're too comfortable, but simply because they're too rich, too educated, too sensitive now, or just too broke, or just too comfortable. Even comfortable people probably don't feel the need to have a lot of kids, because that obviously arises out of some need as well, right? So no matter which way you go, miserable or happy, as long as you develop a society, there seems to be several strong pressures to eliminate everything that exists, either by non-procreation or non-consumption. People just you have to keep people retarded. You have to keep them believing in miracles and delusions. You have to keep them going to church. You have to keep selling them, psychiatric medication and therapy and cars and fucking and sweets and soury shit and then salty shit. But if you educate the population, you give them too much money, you make them too existentially desperate or existentially comfortable, and then you're done. So that's the kind of fundamental fact that, in a way, Marxism sees. That, all throughout history, was the clash between the rich and the poor that really kept everything going. I mean, it's not what they said, but that's kind of the implication of it, right? Once you take away this clash and you make everyone equal, but comfortably equal, or just, richly equal, then you're fucked. They can be poor and equal, that's okay. They will still go to church, I guess. They will make their own religions. They will just be savages, right? But eventually they will make a civilization. And then, the same shit will happen as before. Slavery, well, first It was settler. It was a kind of an organic hunter-gatherer life. Then it was settlements with tribes, and then it turned into giant fucking kingdoms, and then feudal systems, and then capitalism, and then socialism, and all kinds of different systems: fascism, neoliberalism, social democracy. But what they have in common is that they move toward destruction. They move toward they develop. There's a kind of dialectical process, I guess, to history where, yes, history develops over time, and you develop technology and you develop information, and that becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. And then eventually it's just not much else left to do. We've done everything already. We're comfortable or we're sad. Then there's no dialectical synthesis. Where do you go from that? People don't want to have kids anymore. So I guess technology could help, because you can make fake humans. You can have, I think it will be possible in the future to have like artificial wombs, and then they can create more people, right? With artificial wombs. Maybe that will be the solution. But that won't be a pretty future. If you have to keep making people artificially, that's gonna be a real fucking problem, because they're gonna question, why did you make me artificially? I wasn't needed. I wasn't wanted. So why'd you make me? So that's gonna create a bunch of technical, ethical issues, and countries that are more degenerate will be okay with doing that. And then they will dominate the countries that are more ethical, which really is just more of the same, right? When you think about it. It's always been the most rootless systems that get ahead, and you could say that most countries are rootless. And the rest of them just not very powerful. Like Switzerland is always, it's very famous for being non-confrontational. Like it's always neutrality. But by being neutral, it doesn't actually fix any problems. By not condemning, I don't know if it did, but given that it's always neutral, it wouldn't. I don't know. I guess it wouldn't condemn Putin, or wouldn't condemn Netanyahu, or wouldn't condemn anybody. And it's just this big bank state of rich people. And so what? So they're happy there in their little rich world. But that richness comes at the price of the whole global system, and they just ignore it. So I don't particularly have any love for the comfortable people that only focus on their own life, and life coaches, and just focus on yourself. Save for retirement, 401k. Focus on your health, focus on your body, focus on your relationships, build yourself. Well, I can't really be motivated, because I find that stuff to be inane and deeply insufficient to fixing the problems of the world. So I'm quite uncaring and about that stuff. And so people like that who are so uncaring about that stuff usually destroy themselves, because they care about the world too much, and that puts stress on them. They work themselves to death trying to solve the world's problems, thinking about it, working on it. And so these comfortable assholes only care about themselves, get ahead. And that's just not a very nice thing. So the old people are basically just people who are too comfortable. They made it through everything. They probably followed the right nutritional plan. Probably didn't smoke, don't drink. So they made it very far. But so what? It's just they were just a menace in a way, because they didn't really try to fix the world's problems and didn't really even think about it too much. So again, that's another tragic paradox, where thinking about the world's problems really only fucks you up. And I guess we have proof of that when it comes to writers and poets and artists who really cared about the world and then couldn't take the pain of it. Or people who fought and were killed in combat trying to liberate slaves or something, trying to save their country from fascists or something. And so comfortableness is really of no use to me. And that's why I don't have love for the Jordan Petersonian types. Because they say, put your house in order, put your house in order. But it doesn't see that it usually has to be in disorder before you can be bothered to do anything about it. Before you can be bothered to do anything about the messy house of the world. Yeah, if your room is not messy, then I guess you don't have to think about it. But what about the rest of the world? Yeah, and even on a personal level, you have to be bothered first. You can't just be like, well, I'm gonna start caring about my room now. You have to be not put together in the first place to even have that idea, right? So there's something kind of paradoxical about this idea of fix yourself first. Well, I can't really fix myself first. I'm already broken. And I'm not really gonna be fixed just because I make my bed. If I'm broken, something else needs to happen. I can't just fix my bed and be unbroken. So that's exactly the kind of tried bullshit that just really rubs me the wrong way, right? That's why the left is fundamentally superior, even though it's too utopian often, because it's superior because it has a different methodology, because it recognizes that you actually also have to care about the structures that make our lives possible. And it's not gonna be enough to do some personal mojo, fucking yoga, smoothie, fucking flexibility 101 bullshit to fix it. You can suck your own dick, because you have appendages, I guess. No, appendix, I don't know. So yeah, your thorax, what is that shit? Well, and so yeah, they have a superior methodology, and that really breaks them, because they realize that, oh shit, it's not just about me. The right wants to have it easy. They just want to say, all you need to do is fucking focus on yourself, and that's all you need to do, and it's all gonna be okay after that. And the left is gonna say, oh no, that's not gonna be enough. And so they don't have the easy solution. They don't have the solution where you just go to church and pray to God, and God will take care of it. God will take care of it. They realize that there is no fucking God that's coming to the fucking rescue. And so you have to take care of it yourself, together with others, organizing, raising your voice, giving yourself. You can't just say, go to church and, save money and get married and have kids. And but they also contradict themselves, because they also love politics. So they're obviously not, satisfied with the answer they give to the problem in the first place. they, they're also bothered by the liberals. The ideology never made any sense. Okay. So, I mean, obviously there's 10,000 different things to say at each moment. Fortunately, I've never run out of things to say. But, yeah, on a personal note, I am constantly quite miserable. And so you have to deal with issues and they never end. And it's just sort of such a terrible distraction because I just don't care about my little personal issues. I want to focus on the world, and I constantly have to deal with this, what I began with in the first place, this, nagging and browbeating about your own personal shit. So just pathetically stupid and just such a distraction from things that actually matter. So, yeah, it's just, I wish I had some solution to, well, I guess I did offer something. I offered my plan. The plan that probably won't be taken up. I mean, you could consent to it or whatever, but if you're afraid about privacy breach, you can just say, oh yes, I would like to collaborate. At the very least, that could be done. The whole system is just so, you're born, then they force you to go to school so you can get a job, so you can retire, so you can die. Does nobody think this? I mean, obviously they do, but does nobody think this system is kind of fucked up and kind of self-referentially stupid? Can it not be a more open structure? I mean, learning is lifelong. Why should learning and working be two different things anyway? Why can't we learn and work? Learn work. Why does it need to be, okay, you go to school, okay, now you can get a job? Well, that seems like two separate things, so why not just unite them? Why does it have to be, you're gonna retire? I'm not saying you shouldn't, but it's like, what's the point? You're just gonna sit there alone in your retirement house? Again, this whole structure is completely anti-human. It's anti-community. It's an anti-individual too. It's just a series of molestations. It's do this, do that, and then die. We really can't do better than that shit. I mean, I hate this fucking system. It's so fucking stupid. And I guess I'm angry because I'm, in the throes of it too. It's such a cold, empty world. And that's why it's so funny when conservatives defend this system of brutal individualism, fake individualism. So see, they don't believe that fucking shit. Like, my country is supposed to be Christian, but there were some polls that said only like 10% of them go to church or something, maybe 15%. And it's supposed to be a Christian country. And almost none of them really give a single fuck about Christianity. But it's a Christian country. I mean, the Muslims really believe it, I guess. That's why they're getting to be dangerous. Because they really will kill you. So, that's another topic, is you can't criticize the Islam because that's insensitive. And it's like, fuck you, Islam is insensitive. It's maybe not always, but the general thrust of it is just so reactionary, and nothing good could possibly come out of it. It's just religion. It's an old, stupid fucking religion, and the left has molested itself to bow down before this bullshit. And we have to accept Islam. No, we don't. We should just say, fuck you, keep it to yourself. Don't bring it here. Just, you can play with it at your house, but nowhere else. Forget it. You people are so stupid, man. Most people, anyway. Just so fucking delusional. So silly. Yeah, let's make a progressive country and then make it less progressive in the name of progressivism. Brilliant. Oh, that's not good. Let's move to the right and let's be bigots. For some reason, that's, you can't get anything right. People don't seem to be able to get anything right. They get it wrong always. They move always too far. Crowds are always wrong. They just make problems. Even the Pride Parade, it's just a sign that something's wrong. Crowds are never good. Groups are never good. All they make is problems. All we can make is problems. We're never gonna fix anything. I think. Maybe I'm wrong. But humanity has never fixed anything on purpose. It's a perfect wrecking machine. It might cut off at some point because of the storage. But yeah, I wish I had something more productive to say. I've been wanting to maybe move into philosophy a little bit more because I've been working on it. But it's just so difficult to figure it out. What is objectivity? Is it possible? Can we say the truth? Well, in a way, yes, but in a way we can't because it's always just a fucking opinion, right? I am always pushed towards postmodernism because I just don't buy the idea that we just have objective knowledge. Our morality, we do have it, but it's basically just some human desire. We can call it objective if we like, but calling it subjective would be just as valid, I think. I can't, basically just a matter of how seriously we take ourselves. Basically semantic. So I'm very skeptical of science. I'm very skeptical of objective knowledge, and objectivity seems like an unexamined concept that when you examine it, it falls apart and becomes something rather contingent that shouldn't be called objective. Otherwise, everything contingent is objective, and that just kind of defeats the purpose of the distinction of what is relative and what is absolute. So I don't really accept the solution that, I saw subjective, we made it up, but that's part of the world that's objectively. Yeah, well, okay, you can say that, but it's a pretty weak solution. So I guess I should probably quit because it's too long. But yeah, I just wanted to say, like, I'm constantly thinking about. I'm constantly attending a vigil in my head. I keep a candle light in my head for the victims of the world. I always think about suicidal people. Last year I had the misfortune of watching some gore videos of suicides and stuff, and it really fucked me up. I don't recommend it. I've always known they were there, and I had seen some of them, but it's like, just think about all, especially the young people, really fuck me up. So, even when I'm outside standing here in the middle of nowhere, I'm still thinking about them. And it pisses me off that, it happened and there's nothing I can do about it, right? It's just people that were victims in the past should not be seen as just some piece of trash. They should be kept in your memory. You should have some decency to think, maybe even pray for the sad victims of the world. Don't forget where you came from. Don't forget what kind of world you're living in. That's the least you can do. And although most people won't get it, most people are stupid, ignorant, Christian, retarded pieces of fucking shit, you at least have the decency to think about it. Hopefully that wasn't too bad. too depressing. Yeah, I mean, cheer up. It's no reason to be anxious. You're gonna die anyway, so forget it. Thanks, bye.